So I'm going to do a bit of a vlog on all the different intake manifold gaskets you get for the Magnum and which is the best one to choose. I'm going to start with the ones that I had installed. This is aramid fiber extra thick gasket. It's supposed to be good when your mating surfaces are not completely flat. It compresses a lot, and you're not supposed to have to retorque the heads after, retorque the manifold afterwards. So you can install once and you don't have to tighten the bolts afterwards. So if you look at the original thickness, I mean, that is crazy thick. And it compresses all the way down to that. Now, I tried to check the torqueness after 30,000 miles, and the bolts were really loose and it was leaking. And you know, it comes in these multiple layers and they seem to separate out. So you can actually see that the bonding is, well, they get all junky. I mean, I don't know what they're supposed to be made of aramid fiber, just some fancy thing, but really it's just like paper and it soaks up all the fluid. And I mean, I don't know, you know, what is this stuff? I don't think it's particularly fantastic, to be honest. I don't know where they get that it's so wonderful. So next we're going to look at the Edelbrock. So this is the Edelbrock. Now the Edelbrock says that this side goes facing up. So this side goes towards the intake on the aluminium side, and this side goes towards the head, which will usually be iron. It looks like it's made of paper. It's supposed to be some synthetic fiber. I don't know if it's true or not. These beads obviously would help. You're supposed to use some Edelbrock bonding cement on this side. They're not clear if this is for sealing or just for holding the gasket in place. That's what the instructions say. I think it's similar to a Permatex High Tack sealer. They say do not use RTV on this side. They say you may use RTV on this side, but only around these. So these are the cooling ports where the water goes through. So I don't know if that makes 100% sense to me. I would install these with some tacking compound just on this area to hold them in place and not put anything else anywhere. I don't know if they would last longer than the Mopar original. And I mean, that's the whole idea, obviously. You want it to last longer than the Mopar original. Otherwise, what's the point? So this just looks like paper to me. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would install these. Finally, we can talk about the Mopar, but the Mopar are $50, so they're twice the price of any of the others. And if you want to order them, they take a month to order. And this is on Summit Racing, so that's ridiculous if you ask me. So I'm not even going to talk about those. This is the Felpro. Now the Felpro it's not paper, it's some sort of bonded metal. And it doesn't seem to have a layer of steel in the middle. I don't know which side it goes, but I think it can go either way because both sides look quite similar in terms of it. This has got a slightly raised texture here. So I'm going to actually ask them which side goes up, and then I'll put that in the description just to make sure, so that you've got that information. Now, this looks like the best option to me. Now, the original Mopar also some sort of bonded metal. It seems like some sort of aluminium flakes bonded together. That's what it feels like. It's very heavy and it bends very, very easily. Very easily. I mean, I've just bent this one and had to buy another one. I mean, they're only $20. But if you look here, I bent this by accident just by leaning it on something. So you got to be very careful of that because once you bend it, I mean, I don't trust to actually install it after that. There are some other gaskets, Victor Rains gaskets, that will actually say this side goes towards head or this side goes towards manifold, actually stamped on it. And I think they can be installed either way, otherwise they would say something. The other one I want to talk about is these are the Felpro Performance for the LA head. So they're almost identical. If you were to enlarge these holes, you'd be able to use them on the Magnum. The problem is that these cooling ports are very slightly wider. So, you know, they don't mate up exactly. They're not as tall and they're slightly wider. So it would work, but I'm a bit concerned about it sealing. It seems to be made of a very nice material. It's almost like this. It doesn't feel like paper. It feels like a plasticky sort of material. So I've got the suspicion that these would hold up really well. And on top of which, I've actually got a thin layer of metal on the inside. So to actually this material is bonded to either side of it to actually make it more rigid. So these look like a fantastic gasket. They're more expensive. I would love to use them, but obviously you've got the problem that these ports aren't the right shape. These ports are actually almost exactly the right shape. They're very slightly bigger than the Magnum, but they're good. I mean, they're a good enough match. These ones are not, so I'm concerned about these ports, and that's why I'm not going to use them. So the other reason to get the Felpro is that the Felpro comes with this very nice manifold undercover gasket, and it's embossed with this kind of almost sticky plastic material here. It feels like silicone, which should provide a much better seal. They seem about the same thickness as the originals, maybe a little bit thicker. I don't know what the material is, but it doesn't feel like paper. It feels like some sort of plasticky sort of material, but it's not completely smooth. So it seems like a bit porous, like paper, but not quite. So I really like these. These look like something that's going to last forever. Also comes with these China rail ends in cork. Now, Edelbrock says not to use these. When you want to seal these, all you do is you put a nice thick bead of RTV along, and I think it's a much better idea. And of course, you must clean your surface very carefully. So I'm just going to show you some surface preparation. So once again, I've used these little wire wheels, wheel polishing wheels that I got off eBay, and I put them in my Dremel tool, and basically you take them and you turn on your Dremel. I'll just put it on low speed so it's not so noisy. So I mean, it's quite simple. You take this and you just you clean along here with this thing, and you create a nice polished surface. And I've cleaned everywhere along with this thing. So I've got all the old gasket off that way, and everything is nice and clean. Along here is where you put your RTV silicone bead. Now, after I've actually cleaned this, I'm going to clean it some more with some alcohol and possibly acetone to really get this surface perfect. At the moment now, it's right down to bare metal. As I explained in the previous video, this surface is not affected by these wire wheels. They don't take off enough material to affect the flatness, which is really quite nice, but it does leave a polished and shiny metal surface. So your gasket has nothing but metal to stick on, which is exactly what you want. Now, there's a possibility I might use this Permatex Ultratech. Okay, sorry, that's Permatex High Tack gasket sealant 80062, and this stuff is very sticky and disgusting and gets everywhere and makes a mess. But the nice thing about it is it never ever goes hard. So what you can do is you can use it as a glue to actually glue your gasket on. So you would just put it in the middle, just on this area over there, and then you can stick your gasket down and your gasket won't move. And then you don't have to worry about your gasket shifting when you put your manifold down or place your manifold. Now, I'm going to check with Felpro if I can put this on both sides and if I can put it even on the area around here for a better seal. And then I'll put that information in the description. I'm going to go with what Felpro recommends, but they do have a website and a forum where you can ask these sort of questions. I'm going to find that out. And especially over here, I'm going to ask if you can use RTV on this and if that's a good idea and if you can use it on both sides. Now, I think RTV, in many cases they say don't use RTV because RTV prevents the gasket from moving and then the gasket will actually fail from the stress. And this might happen immediately, but over many tens of thousands of miles it will happen. Now, the other trick that's very important is you're going to put a bead of RTV here, And then you're going to put your gasket down. And if your gasket doesn't line up exactly and you push it, then you're going to smear this RTV all over the place where you don't want. And that is, that is very frustrating to actually not be able to line this up properly, especially when you've got very little place to work. Because you can see I've got my fuel injection rails hanging over here, so there's very little space to actually do anything. So it's quite easy to actually mess this up when you install it. So the way to prevent that is just take one of these 5/16 bolts that you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, and you put these in the corners like this. I've cut off the heads of these bolts, and then you can locate your manifolds first time. Now, that's a professional way of doing it. So do that and don't mess up by putting it and then smearing it around and actually possibly also damaging your gasket at the same time. You do this and your manifold comes down in one shot exactly where it's supposed to and it doesn't move. And that's the best way to do it. And then all you need to do is put your fingers down there and unscrew it once the manifold is in, and then you put your regular bolt in there. So that's the proper way of doing that. So the other trick I found is that they say that you must put a bit of RTV in the corner, and I disagree with just taking a bit of RTV and shoving it in the corner. What I do is I take a small amount of RTV in my finger and I actually rub it into that corner with a lot of pressure to make sure I get an absolute bond. And then I actually rub this really hard with my finger with RTV and smear a very thin layer all along the edge. And then I do the same on the aluminium side on the intake manifold. And then I take my bead of RTV and actually layer my bead. And this way, you got perfect bonding with the metal. And you can ensure that it's bonding because you actually feel it with your finger. If it doesn't bond with the metal, you'll see it'll actually lift up. And that can usually happen if there's a bit of grease or oil. So you can actually be sure that you're getting that good bonding right when you do it. And I think that's the best way to handle that situation. Just to take the bead and put down, you don't know what's happening. That bead could be lying there, not actually bonding with the metal. And then as things move, you're going to get a leak. Okay, so thanks for watching. In summary, I'm going to use the Felpro after all this analysis and find out exactly what sort of things I can put on the Felpro and if there's any difference whether I put it this way or this way. And I'll put that information in the description. All these other gaskets are absolute crap. It's only the Felpro that is most similar to the OEM gasket. And it's not made of paper, it's made of some bonded aluminium, compacted aluminium or steel. That sounds to me like something that will last for a very long time. Now, if you are a drag stripper and you're only interested in building an engine to last for 1,000 miles, this video is not for you. I'm not interested in people who are blowing and turbocharging and whatever else they're doing to their engines that need fancy gaskets. I want an engine that's going to last for 200,000 miles, just like the original OEM engine did. And that is the purpose of my gasket hunt. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.